Welcome back after the lunch break to the afternoon part of our technical session. We have now, I would say, 3 more agenda items. So first, a presentation from Sylvain on the cache-related testing. So this is on the cache aspects of T2S, and afterwards, Monica will give us a view on the migration-related points. And then for the closing of our session today, we have a second panel then, as indicated earlier, with Wave 1 participants. So with Banca d'Italia, Monte Titoli, Banque de France again, and Citibank. But first, I'd like to give the floor to Sylvain for the cache-related testing and migration activities.
Thank you, Holger. Good afternoon. After this excellent lunch generously offered by the ECB, we thought you need something light to not to interfere too much with your digestion. So we thought let's cover the cache aspects. So the objective of my presentation today will be precisely to clarify how the Eurosystem central banks will organize the testing and the migration activities for their DCAs in euro. Of course, the general approach which we follow, or which will be followed, is the one which has been described by the colleagues of T2S this morning. But the central banks, as operator of their TGS system, they have some responsibilities in the organization of these tests for their participants the same way. Of course, the CSDs have some responsibilities vis-à-vis their own participants. My presentation will be structured in 5 parts, setting the background, first of all, more specifically the relationship that exists between Target 2 and T2S. Some words as well on the testing and migration, which is envisaged, generally speaking, for our communities. Then I will cover the detail of the scenarios that we are currently elaborating. We'll also have some words on the preparation and setup which are required before the testing, also addressing or touching upon some aspects which have been discussed in the panel before the lunch. And at the end, some general statements on the migration weekends, because Monica is going to cover much more on that afterwards. But first of all, it's important to recall some key principles which are shaping the interactions between Target 2 and Target 2 securities, because these interactions are precisely framing the testing activities that we will organize. In T2S, or when T2S has gone live, the banks, they will have their euro liquidity split in 2 pots, meaning on the RTGS accounts and on the DCAs. The banks, they will have to manage these 2 pots of liquidity quite independently, and in particular, they may have to shift liquidity from one pot to the other, because there won't be any kind of offset or pooling across these 2 type of accounts. You know as well that T2S is exclusively making use of ISO 20022 standards. And of course, when it came to adapt Target 2 to T2S, we took the decision to implement these ISO standards in Target 2, more specifically the cache management standards, which are called CAMT5 or CAMT, for those that are a bit more familiar with that jargon. These messages, they have been already implemented in Target 2 as part of our yearly release number 7, so which was implemented in November last year. That means that during the test and later on during the live phase, as a standard service, the banks will have the possibility to use the same set of standards to manage their liquidity on both T2 and T2S, so, or on the RTGS and DCA's account. That's basically the arrow which is in blue now. But still, we were expecting that not all the banks, they would be able or willing to handle the ISO 20022 standards by the time T2S goes live. That's why we had to find a solution not to leave these banks without any solution, because it's also important. It's of course important for us that the liquidity is properly managed on both sides, not only on the RTGS but also on the DCAs. For that reason, we took a decision to provide on an optional basis another interface by which the banks would be in a position to manage their liquidity on their DCA, but through Target 2 or via Target 2 and using legacy standards. Actually, Target 2 would somehow be shielding them, would be converting their instructions that would have to be posted on the DCA. And that's what we are calling the indirectly connected participants. That means that for some type of banks, that of course depends on the business case that they will be adopting, I come to that later on, there is a possibility, as far as the cash is concerned, for the banks to forget about any form of direct connection to the T2S platform and to do everything from Target 2 using possibly legacy standards, so without having to adapt the ISO 20022 standards. These services, these optional services, which are provided on an optional basis, but also with a separate fee, these services, that's what we call the value-added services of Target 2. And they consist in the following features. Those that would be using the value-added services, they would be in a position to not only push the liquidity from Target to T2S, but also to pull back the liquidity from the DCAs back to the RTGS account, and to do that only standing on the Target 2 side, if I may say, and using legacy standards. So the old MTs, for those that are familiar with this jargon again. But there would also be the possibility for the banks using the value-added services to see on their ICM, which is the GUI of Target 2, to see the balance of the DCAs they are holding in T2S and to see that in real time. I repeat, all these services can be obtained only connecting to Target 2, no need to have a connection to T2S for achieving that. That's one concrete example which is shown in this slide. A bank which would have opted for these additional services, that's what it would see. That's the global liquidity view. I mean, that's one specific screen of the ICM showing the global liquidity view of the participant. And you can see that beside the balance of the other accounts that the participant is holding with the central bank, like a TGS account, HAM account, sub-account, etc. It is also showing, here in red, it is also showing the liquidity which is held on the DCAs belonging to that bank in T2S. The information is somehow repatriated, real time on the ICM. This obviously helps the treasurer of that bank to have a complete picture, not only on what is in T2, but also of the liquidity held on the DCAs. From that same ICM screen, the participant would have the possibility, by clicking on a button, to have a breakdown. That means behind this sum which is shown there, what are the individual balances of all the DCAs, of all the individual DCAs which are held by that bank. Typically, if you have a payment bank that is holding 5, 10, 20 DCAs, they will have the possibility to see how it breaks down. And also from the ICM, again clicking on another button, the bank would have the possibility to ask for shifting liquidity from one of the DCAs to the RTGS account or the other way around, and to make this shifting to make sure that the liquidity is where it needs to be. This is about the value-added services, so it's also a bit of marketing on our side, obviously. I'd like to add, nevertheless, that the functional coverage of the value-added services which we are offering on the Target 2 side are not as broad as the features that you can find on T2S, definitely. There are much more features and functionalities that you can find on the T2S, on the T2S GUI. You can, set limits. You can view the amount of pending autocall that still have to be reimbursed. You can ask for standing instructions or these type of things. That you can only do it if you have a direct connection to T2S. So that means that the value-added services they can be used for an indirectly connected participant that would have a relatively, I would say, simple business case. If, of course, we are speaking about bigger custodian, for instance, that may not suffice. But the value-added services, they may also be relevant for the big participants, for the big payment banks, because the two solutions are not mutually exclusive. You can have a bank that is having a direct connection to the T2S platform, having all the possible features and tools that are offered by T2S for managing the liquidity, and besides that, subscribing to the value-added services of Target 2, for instance, as a contingency tool when its main connection to T2S is not working properly. So that's typically the two categories of participants which are our target. So it was important to recall these technical aspects or these functional aspects not only from a marketing viewpoint, but also because later on in the test, that's something which is, that's a distinction that is important between the directly connected cash participants and the indirectly connected one for the certification and for the testing of these participants. Another important point that I would like to recall in this first part relates to the legal construction of T2S. Of course, you all know T2S from a technical viewpoint. What is that platform? I mean, with a cash and securities account being held on the same platform for basically making DVPs. But we often tend to forget that from a legal viewpoint, T2S is not seen as a system. T2S is not going to be designated under the SFD. From a legal viewpoint, the DCAs that will be open in euro, they will be part of Target 2. The same way, I assume that the securities account will be legally a part of the perimeter of the CSDs. That means that we have a clear mismatch between the technical perimeter, the platform, and the legal perimeter of the different systems, and that is sometimes leading to some confusion. It's also important at this stage to clearly set the background. So as I said, the DCAs, they are placed under the responsibility, if I may say, of the individual central banks. And while, of course, the testing activities will remain under the general framework that has been defined for T2S, the proper certification and the proper testing and readiness of the DCA holders is to be ensured by the central banks in Target 2. Here we are. Some general principles now that we are going to follow. And when I say we, it's all the Target 2 central banks during the forthcoming tests and migration activities. There are basically 3 points that you have to keep in mind. The first one is the decentralization. That's not something new. That's something that we had adopted as well in Target 2. We remain in a decentralized environment. That means that during the testing and migration activities, and I speak to the banks in that case, your interlocutor for the organization of the testing, for sharing the results, for monitoring your readiness, for possibly raising tickets if you discover bugs, your interlocutor will be your national central banks. And when I say yours, it's the central bank in the books of which you will open your DCA. The second point, it's about the harmonization. Like we did in Target 2 to have a lot of efforts in reaching a very harmonized framework for the testing and migration, we try to apply the same principle and the same approach here. That means that, as Andreas was already touching upon it this morning, the testing requirements, they will consist of a set of scenarios that will be the same throughout the Eurosystem. There will be scenarios that will be mandatory. So all the participants will have to execute them. And these mandatory tests, they will concern, I would say, the root activities of the banks. There will also be, besides this mandatory scenario, some optional or conditional one. For instance, when they concern or when they are related to the possible subscription of an optional service. But in general, the test scenarios will be adapted to the business case of the banks. But what should be kept in mind is that all these rules, the conditionality or the definition of the scenarios, they will be the same with all the central banks. That means that if you take a given payment bank with a specific business case, wherever it is connected to, it will be subject to the same testing requirements. The third and last aspect which I wanted to point out relates to the multi-country banks, or what we called in the context of Target 2 multi-country banks. That means when a bank has accounts with more than one central bank, that we speak about RTGS or DCA accounts anyway. For instance, when there is a need within a banking group to have one account in one country for the head office and several accounts for the subsidiaries or for the branches in other office in other countries. Here we are going to adopt, when there is the request from the banks, a kind of passport concept. It's also something that we had in Target 2. That means that when we have a multi-country bank which is managing from the same technical platform a number of accounts which are open with central banks in different countries, we will give the possibility to that participant, if it makes the request, to test only once, and then there will not be the obligation for that participant to repeat the test with the other central banks. There will be this passport concept. Of course, this is mainly for the functional part. You will see later on what we mean by that. That means when the participant tests the most critical features on the platform, but that may not be valid for the community test when all the actors are testing together, because of course in that context we need all the actors for the testing. Very quickly, the testing environment that has been touched upon this morning already. There are 4 testing environments in T2S, but only one in Target 2, only one test and training environment. Fortunately, all the activities with the banks, they are going to be on one single environment. And it's precisely to this environment, sorry, I forgot the name of that technical environment, but it's precisely to this one that we decided to connect Target 2. Obviously we had, and that was also covered this morning by Catherine, we had to adjust the operating time of our testing system in Target 2 to the operating times of T2S, as it will be the case obviously for the production. And already since November last year, we have adopted these new operating times so that the 2 platforms can be synchronized and can smoothly interact. Now, all the testing procedures, all the requirements, all the scenarios in relation to T2S, or should I say in relation to the DCAs, they will be included in the Target 2 user testing guide. The user testing guide is a document that is already there, that is already available since the start of Target 2. It's on our website. It's available to all the participants, and that is giving them the complete picture of all the testing activities they have to cover. So far, the perimeter or the coverage is only on RTGS accounts, on pure Target 2, but in the coming month, it's going, the coverage is going to be broadened, and it's also going to cover the DCA. So that's going to be your Bible as far as your testing and migration activities are concerned in T2 and T2S. Now, after recalling the general principles, let's now enter into the more concrete stuff, if I may say. The testing activities, if we simplify and perhaps oversimplify them, we could sort them in three categories. We have basically three layers that correspond to the three steps that you will adopt whenever you want to make sure that you are ready to become a participant in the system. You have the technical layer, technical and connectivity layer. You have the functional layer, and you have the more business layer. Of course, before that, you have the preparatory phase, the setup of your connection, the setup of your account, and at the very end, and that's the objective, you have the migration, and I'm going to cover later on these two extreme steps. But as far as the testing is concerned, starting with the connectivity, obviously, as it was recalled this morning, by the way, the purpose of the connectivity test is just to make sure that the payment bank, in that case, so the DCA holder, can properly connect to the platform. Or the same could be said as well for the RTGS account owner. That means to ping, if you prefer. The functional tests, here we aim at getting reassurance that the bank can properly interact with the platform, using the different features which are held at its disposal on the platform, and without, I would say, damaging the smooth functioning of the platform. And lastly, you have the business, the layer of the business test, which aims at ensuring that all together, all the actors of the community can properly carry out their normal business on the platform. I meant the platform and not specifically Target 2 or T2S, because here the testing activities that I'm going to cover and that you will be facing in the coming months are not exclusively targeting the DCA holders. It's of course going to focus mainly on the DCA holders, but there will also be some testing activities that will have to be carried out by the current, by the existing Target 2 RTGS account holder. Why? It's because we had to adapt Target to T2S. We had to make quite significant changes to it. So we ask basically almost all our participants to also carry out a number of tests at minimum to ensure that there is no regression. Now, in detail, for these three different layers, if we look first at the connectivity layer, and each time, and for the reason that I gave, I will make the distinction between what we will ask to the current Target 2 participants and what we will ask to the future DCA holders. For the current Target 2 participants, in terms of connectivity, that's going to be relatively light. We will only set requirements for those Target 2 participants or RTGS holder that are going to subscribe to the value-added services. And in that case, we will ask them to demonstrate that they can correctly or that they can properly reach these new ICM pages that we have developed for that purpose. But the other participants, we will not ask them to make any new or additional connectivity tests. Now, the other category of participants, the payment banks, For the DCA holders which are directly connecting to the T2S platform, we are not going to reinvent the wheel. We are simply going to ask them to execute the certification tests which have been defined and published by T2S, for instance, and that's just an example to display a report on the GUI, but I mean, you have seen that the list of these requirements. Two remarks for what concerns the connectivity test. First of all, in both cases that we speak about RTGS holder or DCA holders, we are speaking about a very limited number of test scenarios. So as long as, and that's relatively important assumption, as long as your connection was properly set up, that's something that you can easily handle within a day. Now, another thing which is more for the DCA holders, there are some DCA holders that will be DCP in the sense of will have the possibility to directly send securities transactions to T2S. So real DCP holders, real DCP, if I may say. These banks may have already got their certificate or may have already carried out their connectivity tests with their CSDs. And it's obvious that we are not going to ask them again to recertify their connection. There will be here again a kind of passport concept that we will take, that we will acknowledge that tests, the same tests, have been successfully passed with another entity, possibly with the CSDs. On the functional part, on the second layer, here again we need to make distinction between those having an RTGS account today and those that will have a DCA tomorrow. For the RTGS account holders, they will be subject to specific scenarios. In our jargon, we call them interoperability tests. You will have to get used to the difference of jargon between the two systems. The test scenarios which we will impose to them will be adapted to their business case. So we will look, the central banks will look at the individual business case of the participants. We will have a list of test cases, again, some of which being mandatory, conditional, or optional, and we will adapt that list to the business case. For instance, there will be some mandatory test cases like any RTGS holder will have to demonstrate its ability to receive funds on the RTGS account, because even if they don't intend to be active in T2S, they may by accident receive funds, and to demonstrate the ability to push back the funds and to reimburse these funds. There will also be some test cases that will be more conditional. So typically, if you are using the value-added services, here again, there will be a bit more tests to be executed. What is clear, and that has also been said by Dimitri this morning, we do not aim at asking the participants to go through each and every feature that exists on our platform. We only aim at focusing on the most critical features, those without which a participant can, according to us, cannot properly manage its liquidity on its account or can cause, let's say, troubles or problems on the platform or to other participants. And we will try to be, as we have been in Target 2, very reasonable in that context. On the T2S side, so for the DCA holders, we will adopt exactly the same approach. So in that case, the test case, they will be called authorization test because that's the jargon used in T2S. We will look at the business case of the payment banks again, and on the basis of a list which will have also mandatory, conditional, and optional tests, we will indicate to the participant what are the tests that it has to go through. Just to give an example, we will be more demanding vis-à-vis those that have a relatively complex and elaborated business case, like we will be more demanding vis-à-vis the participants, for instance, that aim at benefiting from autocall on T2S. And for those using autocall, for instance, we may ask them to show their ability to force the reimbursement of the pending autocall. That could be one of the test cases. As I said, we will be extremely reasonable in the test case or in the test requirements that we will impose to the banks. We can estimate that, again, if the preparation has been correctly done, if your back office application has been correctly adapted to, or let's say updated in view of T2S, within a couple of days you can take all these tests and hopefully pass them. There is also something we have to keep in mind is while the central banks are going to have their authorization tests, these authorization activities, the CSDs will also have theirs. And of course the central banks, they stand ready to coordinate a bit their action with the CSDs to make the life of the banks easier, if I may say, and so that the banks can, with one stone, kill two birds. I mean, with one set of messages, could try to get to tick mark test requirements that would be coming from both the central banks and the CSD, and we are completely, we stand completely ready to have this type of coordination discussions. The last layer, of the testing, the business one, that's basically when the two worlds are coming together. Huh? So that's why there is no differentiation any longer between the target 2 and the DCA holders, because that's the purpose of these business tests. We have all the participants, not only these ones, and not only target 2 and DCA holders, but also the CSDs and the CSD participants. And they will be invited to test scenarios which will realistically simulate a complete business day in T2 and in T2S and on the platform of the CSDs. Of course, beyond the normal scenarios, so the business as usual, we will also aim at testing the most relevant contingency scenarios in view of validating all the operational procedures which are being elaborated by the colleagues. These scenario or this phase of the testing, by nature, it's very business oriented, and the business of T2S is more the business of the securities than it is the business of the cash. So that's why we expect that it's more the markets and the CSDs that will be in the lead to define these scenarios. The only requirement or the only expectation that the central banks are having is that we have the possibility through these different scenarios to validate all the operational procedures that have been defined, but I think that's a common goal anyway. And there are groups like the UTSG where typically this discussion can take place. More concretely for you, sorry, I did something wrong here. There we are. When are you expecting, or when are participants expected to test, and when are these scenarios be available? The tests, there will be the test on the cash side will be organized as in T2S in general by Wave, and these dates would apply. I put the dates only for the first two layers, so for the connectivity and the functional test or the authorization test. Because as I indicated before, the business layer is something that will still have to be discussed with the markets. But basically for the connectivity part, you will have the first 4 weeks of the community test for your Wave to pass your, to demonstrate your proper connection to whatever platform you are connected. And you will have 2 months after the start of the community test for checking your functional interaction with the platform, so to carry out these interoperability or authorization tests, depending on the platform with which you are playing. As regards the availability of the scenarios, the test scenarios for the connectivity, they have already been published for the T2S part. The availability of the authorization scenario, that's going to take a bit more time. We are still working on them. We aim at publishing them, and that will be publication for all the markets, for all the communities which are connected to Target 2. They will be published in September. That means roughly 6 months before you have to test. So we hope that it's going to be enough. Now, some words on the preparation and on the setup. Because obviously, before you can envisage commencing any testing activities, there is a bit of homework for you and for your IT colleagues. During this preparation phase, and beyond the adaptation, of course, of your IT platform, of your back office application, and so on, you need to take care, basically, it's not exhaustive list, but let's say the 2 important aspects are to take care of your connection setup, and your static data. These activities, they will take place 2 to 3 months before the start of your respective community tests, depending on your wave. And by the way, these preparations, they don't have to be done only in view of the test, but they will have to be repeated later on before the go live. So it's kind of training of what will have to be repeated later on in view of the migration. For the pure connectivity part, I can be very short because there were already the 2 presentations of Swift and Sea Accord this morning. So for those that want to connect directly to the T2S platform and be a directly connected DCA holder, you can refer to the presentations that were made this morning. In terms of first of all, you have to select one of the 2 WAN providers and then get the equipment and to register to the closed user groups, to handle the certificates, the assignment of roles, etc. As I said, this list is not exhaustive. For that, you will see with the WAN providers. But for those banks which would wish to have an indirect connection, that means to use the value-added services, then you would simply have to go to your central bank and to ask for a subscription to these services. So that's going to be relatively easy because you remain in the Target 2 environment, if I may say. For the static data, the central banks, they will put a specific process in place to collect all the information we need to properly set up your DCAs in T2S. This process will be based on paper-based forms. It's something which is going to be very similar to what we used to have in Target 2. So for those of you who were there when we migrated from Target 1 to Target 2, you're going to find forms, let's say, that will look familiar to you. Together with the forms, where you will have to indicate how we will have to set up your DCA and all the information that are needed to do so. We are also going to prepare a registration a registration guide that will explain for each of the data that we need, what is the format, what are the controls, what are the possible values, what it means in business terms, and this type of things. Of course, some coordination will be needed at some stage, because I think, Dimitri, you made reference to that this morning. In terms of setup, there is the setup of the DCAs, there is the setup of the securities account. So this is clearly delimited. I mean, it's one for the central banks and the other one for the CSD. But at a certain stage, we have to link the two together. We have to link the DCAs with the securities account in the context of the famous CMB. And here there will obviously be a need to coordinate and to stay in contact with the CSDs, because it's a kind of iterative process with specific sequences. And we have to make sure with the CSDs that the setup of not only the accounts but the links among the accounts is done in a reasonable time, not to put at stake the timely start of the testing. The forms, they will be made available to the banks via your central banks. They will be the same for all the countries, for all the communities. The only changes is that you will have the logo of your central bank on top, but for the rest, they will be the same. There will not be so many forms, much less than what we had in Target 2, so just to reassure you. I guess that it's not going to be more than 10 forms. And these forms, they will be made available to you, well, let's say in the course of the fourth quarter of this year at the latest. We are still working on them. Something which I didn't say on the static data. The central banks are only going to enter the static data which are strictly necessary to create the DCAs. But beyond that, the payment banks, if they want to make use of specific services like client autocall, they have to add on top their own, additional static data, but that is a process that they will take care of. It's not the central banks that will enter 100% of the static data for the DCA. We just enter the minimum, and depending on the usage you will make of your DCA, it could be that there are static data that you need to put on your own and on top through the connection to the GUI. Very quickly now, the last part of my presentation on the very time-critical and delicate stage, namely the migration. Very briefly, because Monica is having a fully-fledged presentation later on. If I were to be provocative, I would say that on the cash side, there is no migration. Because the first day of T2S will be a day where we start with the DCA at 0 and we end with the DCA being back to 0. So the first day of T2S is going to be as any subsequent day in the life of T2S. So for us, we can't really speak about a migration because we have no legacy to migrate. So to that extent, the challenge that we are facing is much, much, much simpler than the challenge that the CSDs are facing. Another comment which I'd like to make is that for the migration, you know that the migration is structured by waves, and the waves are composed of a subset of the CSDs. But even that concept is not totally applicable to the central banks, because one cannot really say, or at least that's something we always refrain to say or to show on a screen, that central banks belong to one or the other group. It's not really the way it's going to work. What is important for you, and when I say you again, it's the banks, what is important for you to know is that the central banks, and irrespective of the wave in which its local CSD is migrating, the central banks stand ready upon request to open DCAs from day one. So if we were really forced to say in which wave would central banks migrate, it's a bit like we are all migrating in wave one. So but we didn't want to be to pose any constraint to the payment banks. And I repeat, all central banks, they would stand ready upon request of market participants to open DCAs from wave one onwards. Where does the difficulty or the challenge lies for us, central banks, for the migration? It's not so much for the migration weekend itself, it's more for the activities which are in in the weeks or in the months before. It's all this setup, all the accounts, all this collection of the static data forms that we are going to broadly distribute to the communities, to collect them, to enter them into T2S, to possibly contact the banks to find out, did you really mean that, because there are some incoherence and stuff like that. So the challenge is mainly there in the activities ahead of the migration weekend itself. But otherwise, we can look at the migration activities a bit more relaxedly than our colleagues from the CSD, certainly. Now, if we look at the activities during the migration weekend themselves, what is going to happen from the Friday evening, when at 6 o'clock we are closing target 2, and well, I hope that on that day we are not going to have a delay, because that would really be problematic. But when we are closing target 2 and the migration weekend really starts, what are we going to do? On the cash side, again, it's going to be relatively straightforward for the payment banks, with, however, a slight difference between those that will be migrating with wave 1 and the subsequent waves. Because for the first wave, at a certain stage in this very long and complex plan or schedule for the migration weekend, the central banks, they will be asked, not all of them, some of them, that's enough, they will be asked to execute some trials to make sure that the liquidity can properly fly from T2 to T2S and in the other direction as well. And it's only once we have checked that this is working fine that there will be a signal to the payment banks. Now you can fuel, if I may say, your DCAs. But for technical reasons, the standing orders which you have today in target 2 and through which you are automatically fueling today your sub-accounts, tomorrow your DCAs, this feature is not going to be available on the first or during the first migration weekend. Why? It's because if we were to allow these standing orders to settle, we would interfere with our trials. So exceptionally, we say, do not use standing orders to fuel your DCAs. Wait for our signal. I mean, our signal, you will. I don't know how it's going to be communicated, but broadcast most presumably. You will receive a signal. Now it's fine. You can fuel your DCAs. And you will have to use not standing orders, but current orders to push your liquidity from T2 to T2S using all the tools which I have covered at the beginning of my presentation. For the other, and then business as usual, hopefully. And then for the subsequent migration wave, it's really business as usual. You can, from the first day you would have migrated to the platform, you can make use of all the features, including standing orders. So you see that there is not much difference during the migration weekend between this weekend and any other Friday evening that you will have in the future. One aspect, of course, which we keep in mind, which we have to keep in mind in Target, is that, of course, we are extremely let's say, we make all possible efforts to have a migration to a start of T2S as smooth as possible. But we also have to make sure that all the communities, all the participants, all the other market infrastructures which we are serving today and which are not going to be impacted at all with CLS, that these communities, that these users also have a business that is as normal as possible as usual. We have today in Target something like 1,000 or a bit more participants. We suspect that there will only be some hundreds of them having DCAs in T2S. But you see the big majority of them is not going to be impacted by T2S. So they also expect that they have a T2 business that continue to be smooth and to be as standard as possible. That's it about that. That's about it. The last slide, the classic one for the questions. Obviously, you have very good interlocutors and much more knowledgeable interlocutors than I am for addressing your questions. And here I mean your national central banks with which you are going to open your DCAs. So I can take some questions today, but otherwise I'm sure that my colleagues in the NCBs are going to organize or do organize regularly some events with their banking communities and where they can also take some questions.
There's a question over here. So, first, thank you, Sylvain, yes, for those last present. I think you catched up a bit on the time, yeah, so. Okay, Britta. Maybe you should just keep the microphone.
Maybe I should, yes. Sylvain, I just have a question for confirmation. On one slide, you talk about certification testing for cash DCPs, and right next to it, there it says authorization testing for all DCA holders. But is it correct that the authorization testing is also only for DCPs? Or do I mix something up here? Because that is not clear from the slide.
No, there would be. That's something which we are elaborating these scenarios. Huh? So that will have to be clarified. But let's say we don't just impose test requirements for the sake of making you busy, and it's because we want to get reassurance that whenever all the accounts that you are opening with us, you are in a position to properly manage the liquidity that will be put on these accounts. So if you are an indirectly connected participant or indirectly connected DCA holders, it's a bit long. That means if you don't have a direct connection to the T2S platform, but you use the value-added services, there will be some test cases that will be that you will be asked to execute to demonstrate that, for instance, you can push, pull liquidity, that you can set a number of features and these type of things, and that will be authorization tests, and they will aim at certifying the proper management of the DCA. So that's why I think that we can indeed use the term of authorization test, which is more specific to T2S.
Yeah, because it's just a bit confusing, because usually in the T2S context, authorization is purely for DCPs, and here you used it for the ICPs and DCPs, and that is why,
the jargon is not ideal, because, we also live with a legacy on Target 2. We are using a particular set of terms, which is not the one that has been used for T2S. So definitely we would have to clarify the terms and also the actors that we are targeting with the test requirements, i.e. does it address the RTGS account holder or does it address the DCA holders?
Okay, and just one further question. That means that an ICP for dedicated cash accounts, has to perform authorization tests and these interoperability tests for the RTGS account. Is that correct? If you use the value-added service, because
but it's a bit more complex than that, because it could also be two different institutions. We may also have theoretically a bank that is having a DCA but is not having an RTGS at all. Yeah. So that's why the setup can be very complex. So we have to take care of all the different possible setups.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I mean, if it is the same institution, we will make sure that with the same set of test scenarios, you can tick mark the two. Huh? We are not going to ask you to duplicate the testing activities. That would be completely useless.
So there was another question here.
Thank you very much. I'm from Central Bank, and my question is related to the RTGS holders that do not intend to have any DCA account. And you have mentioned that they will have also some mandatory tests. And that's why I would like to know whether, in this sense, it's necessary for them to subscribe for value-added services or pay for that to make this mandatory test to be able to resend the liquidity back to T2S.
We should avoid such a situation, otherwise we will be accused of course, forcing the market to buy our product. So that's definitely something we will have to pay attention to. Here again, we are speaking about test scenarios which are being discussed. But obviously there will be some test scenarios, if not the one that you refer to and which I refer to in my presentation, if not this one, at least some non-regression tests. Because we have amended Target 2, or we are in the process of amending Target 2 with a release which is, functionally speaking, the most significant one that we ever had since the start of Target 2. So that requires that anyway, even if we have actors that have nothing to do with T2S, that do not want to hear about T2S, we may ask them, we certainly have to ask them to execute some non-regression test or tests like the one which I referred to.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there's another question.
Yes, another one. Sylvain, I have a question on Target 2 side. So today we have the possibility. So we have a 5 days warehouse, and I mean we can. So we can send the last week before the weekend. We can send payments greater than the date of the go live. Do you think there will be an impact for that payments? It's better if we stop to send, or we can continue to send payments for the next week?
We'll have to see that with our colleagues from the 3CB, but I would say if we are speaking about payments which are made to third parties, I mean to other banks, not at all in the context of T2S, I wouldn't see the problem in that context, because we are really, and we have managed to isolate somehow the two worlds, the T2S world, which is using a very specific liquidity bridge between T2 and T2S, and the rest of the business. So the only thing is that, for instance, if you would wish to send ahead of the migration date some current orders with future value date, I mean, this type of thing, we may not like it so much, but if it is, we need to look at that technically. But if it is the case, we would have some communication clarifying the rules. But I think that there would be no logic that you enter into the system with future value date a current order, because you always need to know what is your position in your CSD. I mean, what is the cash that you need for the settlement in your CSD, and that you don't know it several days in advance. So I think it's going to be relatively smooth.